What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Paddock, and today I'm going to tell you one of the easiest secrets to sounding like a professional saxophone player. Before we dive into the tutorial, if you enjoy my content on YouTube, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and leave me a comment below. So what is this big secret that is going to make you sound like a more professional saxophone player? 2 words: tension and release. Tension and release. We talk about how to make a melody sound better all the time by using goal notes, dynamics, and articulations, but the whole goal for everything that you should be doing is creating tension and then releasing that tension. That's what makes melodies sound really professional, which makes melodies sound really good, which makes people get on the edge of their chair and listen to them. It's all about the tension and the release. Now, of course, that is caused by using dynamics, goal notes, and articulations. But if you think of it in a very simple term of creating tension with your note and releasing the tension, it's way easier to conceptualize, and it's way easier just to throw it into your music anywhere to make everything you're playing sound better, especially a melody. So I'm going to do a little example on Georgia on My Mind. This time I'm going to stop and tell you some of the things I'm doing. And when I'm creating this tension to release, I can do it anywhere on any note. Now, when we're talking about dynamics, goal notes, and articulations, there are certain notes that are your goal notes. There are certain rules for dynamics and some articulation stuff. But when it comes to creating tension and release, you can pretty much do that anywhere by the way you play the note and the way you release or resolve the note. So I'm going to play a little bit of this phrase, and I'll stop and tell you what I'm doing. So when I did that, I did a turn. That was setting up the first bit of tension, which is the first note, which is the F sharp. So you can hear everything going into that A. That high A is the note that I'm trying to create a lot of tension with. Then I'm going to resolve that tension by going down to the F sharp E. So I pull that E way back so the tension is resolved. So I create the tension with the A and resolve the tension with the E. Take a listen to that whole phrase and listen to the tension and the release. The tension happens when you hear the note and it puts you on edge, and the release happens when the edge goes away and the phrase sounds resolved. So that high A is my tension note, and I'm leaning into it. Now I can change the way this sounds and where the tension is by putting tension on a different note. And there isn't really a correct note that you should put the tension on. It all depends on how you're feeling it, how you hear the melody. There are some notes that are going to be way more noticeable and recognizable, that they're the ones you should bring out the most. But when you're using this concept of tension and release, you can create tension pretty much anywhere you want in the song. So take a listen to the next phrase. I'm going to start at the beginning and I'll play the second phrase also. You hear that B? That high B, I scooped into it and I'm holding it, and it's creating this tension, like you're like, ah, and it needs to be released. Tension and release, that is your secret. Now, obviously I'm playing this at a pretty high level. If you're just an intermediate student or early intermediate student, you can still put tension and release in your music at your own playing level. It's all about leaning into notes and pulling them back and really listening to your phrase. So listen to this whole first line. It's released there. Now listen. That's a lot of tension. I'm going up that scale and hitting that C sharp. Now, if I was performing this live, and especially without a band and I was playing it with a freer tempo, I could hold that C sharp for a long time and get a lot of tension out of that note. So do you hear how I'm using the tension with my dynamics and some bigger vibrato to really make the song sound intense, and then I pull it way back? So using tension and release is a very effective way to make everything you play sound a lot more musical. And when I say everything you play, I mean everything. Yes, that was Mary Had a Little Lamb, played super dynamic with a lot of tension and release. So I'm gonna do it again and I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing. So I'm starting off that Mary, really strong. I'm doing a grace note into the B and holding it strong. So for that whole thing, I'm pushing into it, and when I repeat that B, even though it's pretty intense, I pull it back with my dynamics so that I get a little bit of release, so it's not just all screaming at you. Then I build it back up. Now I'm going to pull it back. Now, another thing I can do to create tension, besides playing louder, putting a big vibrato on it, and accenting it more, is I can put in space. Space creates tension. So it's all about creating that tension, getting it right on the edge, and then releasing it. If you're interested in digging deeper into the concepts of making melodies sound a lot better, I'd like to invite you to check out my sax school, the Scott Paddock Sax School. And every lesson where I teach a song, the first part of the lesson is teaching the notes and the rhythms and doing play-alongs so that you can play the actual melody. The second half of the lesson, and oftentimes the longer part of the lesson, is breaking down the melody and talking about how to make everything you play sound more musical by bringing out your goal notes, your dynamics, your articulations, talking about tension and release, and just talking about everything you can do to make that melody sound a little bit better and personalize it and make it sound a lot more musical. So if you're looking for some more structure and some more insight into learning melodies, I'd like to invite you to check out the Scott Paddock Sax School. Take a listen on another song. This one is going to be a medium swing. Do you hear that? The loudness, I'm pushing it forward and then I pull it back. I just keep doing all this shape in the melody to try and give myself tension and release so that it has a really forward motion in the way I'm playing it. Take a listen again. I'm gonna try and move forward when I'm doing some tension and move back when I do the release. We'll see if I can do it. So the easiest and most effective way to sound more like a professional saxophone player when you're playing a melody is to create tension and release when you are playing your melody. Find some notes to dig into, push them forward, pull them back, try and make your melodies really have shape to them. Otherwise, it just sounds like this. Which sounds totally fine. It's got a nice little groove to it, but the melody isn't pushing forward. You don't really have this anticipation for what's coming. You don't get the forward motion in the music that you do when you really pay attention to the tension and release. So when you're listening to professional musicians, listen to how they're using tension and release in their solos. Listen to how they use it to shape their phrases and their melodies, and really pay attention to how it affects everything that they're playing sounds. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. If you now understand the concept of tension and release, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and share it with your friends.